Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ken, and on today's episode, I want to talk about the differences between heterosexual dating and gay dating, particularly for gay men, because I feel like in our world, we have a lot of heteronormative standards for what we should be doing as men in dating, but a lot of it doesn't really address the unique qualities that we go through as gay men and some of the challenges that we may face when trying to find a partner who's healthy for us and can help us feel like we're able to self-actualize together. And of course, if this video is of any value to you, please like and subscribe as it greatly helps me, and I look forward to continuing to push more content like this out on the future for you. So one major difference is if you are a closeted man, someone who is still coming to grips with your sexuality and is still navigating that ambiguity and uncertainty and uncomfortability, it is going to be much harder for you to have a enjoyable relationship with someone when they're more comfortable in their sexuality and don't have that same level of maybe internalized homophobia, uncomfortability, whatever you are experiencing, because you're operating at two very different levels. The challenges can be that the person who's more comfortable in their sexuality is probably going to want to do more things to enjoy being part of the broader community, whereas you might also feel that resistance because you're not quite there yet, and that's fine in theory, but the two of you, because you're operating at such different levels, may feel that pull and tug, and it may feel like one of you is going back in the closet where one of you is being forced to change, and it's going to bring about some resistance and also quite a bit of resentment between the two of you, which is going to make it hard. I think the other thing to be aware of is that if you are dating from that place of feeling more closeted or more ambiguous about your sexuality, my recommendation is find someone else who's equally ambiguous, because you're far less likely to have the same level of challenge between the two of you than you would if you were dating someone who's at a different level to you. That's why I think it's really important to be aware of where you're at, because then it allows you to gradually, inch by inch, baby step your way into feeling more comfortable in your skin. Now, the reason this is important is because we still live in a very heteronormative world. It is very challenging for many of us to feel safe in our own bodies, let alone with other people that we're with. So that's why I recommend that you take the opportunity to actually just get comfortable with who you are, and also just gradually take it step by step rather than going into the deep end, because that might cause you to feel, scared, and also may feel you freak out rather than actually taking your time to enjoy the process of getting to know you and what you like in it. Now, another aspect of our community that is more unique than, I would say, other gendered communities, particularly heteronormative ones, is the idea of going into open relationships or opening up into, polyamorous experiences with other people. I think that for our community, we're actually very sexually free and also far more playful than most heteronormative experiences go. And that's why I think it's good to be aware that we can have very different expectations around what relationships involve, which is why it's really good to take the time actually to get to know some of that and to also play around with it. Just because you may have come from a very traditionally monogamous family does not mean you will enjoy monogamy. Take the time, in my experience, just to try it, to feel it through, and to see if this is something that you really want, because that will give you more discernment over whether it's something like loyalty through monogamy, or you do need more playfulness with other people. Now, with all that being said, I want to make it very clear, just because you may not like a polyamorous relationship or an open relationship does not necessarily mean your partner will. It's important to communicate that, and also to make sure that when you're navigating that space, you actually figure out, whether these desires are coming out of a place of insecurity because you don't feel good enough, or that you feel that you need to provide more freedom and more sexuality to your partner because you're worried they might leave you if you don't provide them with this opportunity, because that's not a healthy place to be coming from. It really has to be a good fit for you in terms of how you feel. If you're feeling anxious about this experience of opening up into an open relationship, or you're just feeling on edge and you just feel like you're overwhelmed, or you don't feel like this is actually enabling you to enjoy your relationship, then stop. Because you've really got to ask yourself, what's the reason that I'm putting myself through this if this is not something that I really want to engage in? Because it's not worth your sanity and your peace of mind in a relationship. Another thing to be aware of is that within our community, we also see a lot of masculine and feminine energy that's very different from heteronormative relationships. And what I mean by that is not the masculine femme features of who we are and how we shop. I'll get onto that in a minute. I'm talking more in terms of the way in which one of us may decide to be more of the leader, the one who's making the decisions and telling us what to do and where to go, versus the one who's a bit more passive, receptive, leaned back, and occupying more of that feminine energy. These are terms that have been used to describe polarity for a very long time, and it's not necessarily gendered, it's more based on the way in which we show up with the people that we're with. And I think because of the fact that we as gay men are, operating in a relationship with two men being together, it does mean that we're able to occupy either that masculine or feminine energy uniquely compared to how we would if we were in a more of a heteronormative relationship. So it's good to be mindful of that as well. I think that nicely leads on to the masc and the femme components of our community too. Now, this is a real moment to be very honest with yourself. What do you like in a man? Do you like a man who really not only embodies that masculine energy but also shows that more masculine? And also, do you maybe prefer femme guys who are a bit more into their feminine energy and also are a bit more passive? Or maybe have a variety of those energies that I was talking about earlier. It's good to be aware of that too, because on one hand, yes, there may be a bit of internalized homophobia about what you do and don't like, and that's a conversation worthy of talking to someone like myself or a therapist about, because that's worth investigating. But you also are likely to be attracted to certain kinds of people, for how they represent themselves, for how they show up. And I think it's important to be aware of that, because you're not going to be attracted to everyone, and trying to force something with someone who you don't love is just a recipe for disaster. So it's good to be mindful of what you do and don't like when you. Now, another thing that I think is extremely important for our community, especially more so as gay men, is sex status, particularly for STIs. Even though we've had remarkable advances in reducing HIV and AIDS, it's important to understand that just because we're taking PrEP, for those of us that are, it is not a free pass to just go out and be completely oblivious of the dangers of other STIs. Other STIs have actually gone up astronomically as a consequence of men just abusing PrEP. So it's really good to be very aware of your sexual health and to actually have those conversations with people that you're seeing. It doesn't matter if they're someone you met on a first date. Seeing them as a regular friend, partner, lover, I don't care. Friends with benefits, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I think it's important to have that conversation as early as possible and to be taking due diligence and responsibility for your sexual health. And whilst this is something that every relationship should be thinking about, regardless of whether you're gay or not, I think it's especially important for our community. Finally, I think another really important thing to think about when it comes to our community and also dating is also being aware that it's going to be challenging to find other gay men, and it's not always easy to, be able to reach out and find them, particularly if you come from a country where there is a lot of homophobia and it's still not easy to meet up. And so if you are fortunate enough to actually have access to communities to meet up, fantastic, more power to you. My generalized recommendation that I give to people within reason is usually start with dating apps as a way of getting to know people first. Maybe make some friends through dating apps, particularly Hinge and Tinder I find to be really effective for doing that in the beginning. Even Bumble, because it has a find a friend feature. So I strongly recommend that as a way of just building up a support network before you go in dating. And then if you are indeed pursuing, opportunities to meet more men, find local communities that have got men that are sharing the same interests and values as you, like recreational activities or organizations in your local cities and towns. So anyways, that is my take on some of the differences between heteronormative and also homosexual dating, particularly for gay men. And I hope that's provided you with some more nuanced examples of differences that our community faces as opposed to, say, our straight counterparts. And if this content was valuable to you, please, again, like and subscribe. It makes a real difference for me, and I will be producing more content out here. I have noticed that lately I've been getting a lot more requests to do gay-related content. I normally do a lot of content around attachment theory and narcissism and healthy dating and relationships, which I obviously want to continue producing, but I am also noticing that there is a need for very unique content tailored to our community, so I'm very happy to produce that too. In any case, thank you very much for watching this, and I will catch you guys around. Bye-bye for now.